Hello everyone, this is Steve back with another CG Geek tutorial, and I got a fun one for you guys today. I think you're really going to like it. We're going to be making oceans in Blender. So we're going to be using Blender's ocean modifier and creating an awesome looking ocean shore where you can see the ground and sand and some rocks and some reflections. We're going to be covering all these things in this tutorial, and yeah, like I said, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I think you'll enjoy it. So let's jump right in. I'm using Blender 2.71, and yeah, let's just jump in. I don't need my default cube, so I'm going to hit X and delete that. I'm going to delete this lamp too, and I'm going to switch over to Cycles Render, just because I'm going to be using Cycles for this. So do that right off the bat so I don't forget about that. Now I'm going to hit Shift A, add in a plane, and this is all we need to get going with our ocean. Basically, the ocean modifier will work off of a plane, and so that's all we need to get going. So now I'm going to make my window a little larger over here and select my modifier tab. Here I can go add modifier, and I'm going to add in the ocean modifier. And right off the bat you can see it makes it much bigger and adds this deformity to it. You could call it deformation. So this is basically a low poly ocean that we have set up right here. And you see we have all those confusing settings that I will be explaining most of them to you, and it's actually not that confusing at all. So to start the repeat X and Y, this will basically just tile your image for bigger oceans, which is very cool. I think we'll be using that. We have our time. This is how we're going to be animating our ocean. So I was a little confused when I first started learning the ocean modifier, because you know it's animatable, but like you scrub through and nothing changes. That's basically because we need to animate the time of it, and this will animate the animation of it. And then we have the resolution, the depth, the random seed, the size, the wave scale, all these things, and then also some options for foam and generating normals. I won't be getting into this right now because I'm just covering a simple shore, and this is more for like an ocean, a deep ocean. So yeah, I'm going to start by animating this. So I'm thinking from the tutorial I'll just do 50 frames. Now this basically goes in frames. So right now if you go to your render tab, you can see you're at a 24 FPS frame rate. And basically 1 second of this I found is 24 frames. So in 50 frames, that's about 2 seconds of video footage. So I'm just going to start at time 0 with my cursor at 1, hit I. You can see it inserts a keyframe. Jump to the end by clicking this button here at frame 50, and I'll change it to 1 and hit I again. And now it's animated. If I hit play on our animation, you can see we get this. And it changes, you know, deformation, but it's doing it on a curve, and that's because every time you add keyframes to Blender, it automatically smooths it out with like a Bezier curve. And that's not what we want in this case. So to fix that, I'm just going to split my window, open up the graph editor right here, and you can see we got our curve here. And all you have to do is hit A, select it all, hit V, and make it vector. Now you got a straight line, and if I play this back now, you can see we get a constant animation. So that's great. It's a low poly, but it's not bad looking. Not at all. So I'm going to be turning the resolution up a lot on this. I don't want to go too high, just because I want to have a smooth viewport, and if you go too high you'll get a jumpy viewport. So for now I'm just going to go 16, I think, and you can see we get a lot more detail in that, but I'm going to finish off going all the way up to like a 24, 28, something like that. And alright, so that's good for that. Now the depth. This is something I want to change, because this is, like I said, a shore, and it's only going to be a few feet deep here, and this depth I believe is in meters. So I'm going to take it down to 1 meter, and that will just make the waves and stuff a little smaller, and you can see you're getting less large waves and more of a shallow effect. So that's cool. Hold up, I just realized that I did this wrong. This has to be 2, because we have 2 frames of animation. I wonder how many of you guys got that. 2. There we go. And now I thought this was moving kind of slow. and it was, because it's supposed to be 2 frames, 2 seconds of footage. You may also have to redo your graph editor. Nope, not in this case. But sometimes you'll have to vectorize it again if you add more keyframes. So here we go. Now watch. Yeah, that's better. Much better. And that looks a lot like water right there. That's very good. Very good looking. Now I think our wave scale is a little large for a shoreline. So I'm going to take the scale right here of the displacement down to like a 0.6. And that just kind of leveled it out a little more. That's not bad. Pretty happy with that. So let's place our camera. Let's start setting up our scene here. So I'm just going to go 1 to go into the front perspective, and then I'm going to hit Control Alt 0, and that'll snap my camera view to that point. And then I'll just raise my camera up along the Z axis to something like that, and then I'll move my camera in, hitting G and middle mouse button, and I can just drag it in like so. So I want to kind of set it up so the bottom 2/3 is water and the top third will be distant clouds. So I think I'm going to title my my ocean a little bit. So I'm just kind of rotating, grabbing, and moving in with the middle mouse button. So I think I'm going to tile this a little bit so it goes off into the distance a little more, and that would be changing the Y. So do that once. Maybe also changing the X and then kind of dragging it over here. You could do that if you want, and that looks pretty good. I think that's gonna be it. You can repeat as much as you want, but it gets to a point where it's just slowing you down and you don't really see it anyways, so there's not a whole lot of point in doing that. Alright, so we got our ocean here, and the mesh looks good, but it would look very bad if you rendered it because there's nothing to reflect and there's nothing to see through. So I'm going to add the ocean floor now, basically, and to do this, I'm going to go hit 5 to go into perspective mode and go to my side view. You can see I got my camera here, my ocean here, and I'm going to turn off these repeated tiling right now on the ocean just to give myself a little better frames. Alright, so in side view I'm going to Shift A, add in a plane, and this plane will be our ocean floor. So I'm just going to drag it down a little bit underneath my ocean and scale it up. We want it to come all the way out to both ends of it, like so. That is good. Now I'm going to go to top view, hit tab, and hit Control R. I'm going to put a number of cuts along this ocean. So dragging out, doing something like 12 cuts or something, clicking with your right or left mouse button, and it places it. So that's good. And I'm going to now enable proportional editing, so I can kind of drag this up on a curve. If I, hang on, check this button here so I can select what I can't see. And now everything is going. And now if I drag my middle mouse button, we can make our mesh follow us along with that proportional editing. So I'm just going to kind of drag that up, and then I'm going to take this and down here and drag it down. Yeah, that looks good. Kind of on a nice curve. Good. There we go. And that is our basic mesh. Now I'm going to put a few cuts going through it this ways, just because I'm going to now add in. Oh, hang on. Let me square that up. Something like that. About 12 cuts both ways now. Now I'm going to add in a few modifiers to make this look a little bit better. I'll put a subsurface, crank that up to about a 3, and now I'll put a displacement. And I'll do that crazy thing right there. You just need to click New Texture, and then turn the strength way down to like a 0.05, maybe even smaller. We'll go to our texture settings now, and we can change the size of the texture here. So I'm just going to make it smaller and add a little depth. That's good. Let's smooth out our mesh over here by clicking smooth, and maybe make the size of this a little smaller yet, and then turn the strength down some more. Very good. That looks good, I think. Yeah, it's not too bad. The if you turn your subsurf up even more at this point, you get even more detail, and this is just going to depend on what your computer can handle. So something like that isn't bad. I'm pretty happy with that. Turn the depth up a little more. They don't really notice it once we get past 3 or 4. But alright, so that's not bad. And I think we're ready to add in our stones. We're going to put some stones on the ocean here, ocean floor I should say, to kind of reflect and see through the water. So I'm going to jump to layer 2 to do this, and I'm just going to model a few quick simple stones. So I'm going to hit Shift A and add in a ecosphere. Now I'm going to turn the subdivisions down. No, I'm just going to leave it at 2 subdivisions I think. And go to sculpt mode. Now I basically want kind of a flat rock to start with I think. So let me make this a little bigger. I'm just going to give myself a little more strength here and kind of flatten it out. So F will make the size of your brush bigger and smaller, and Shift F will make the strength of it up and down. You can see that number in the center is the amount. So I'm just going to do about that much. And if I hit Control with Sculpt Draw, I will take away mesh. And if I just click normally, I will add mesh, or pull out the vertices. I'm not adding anything, just deforming the vertices. So I'm just going to hit Control, kind of flatten this rock up a little bit, flatten it up. Let's hit Smooth on this mesh. So switch to Object Mode, go Smooth, then jump back to where is it? Sculpt Mode. Yep. And just kind of form this as a natural looking rock might look. Hit Smooth, kind of smooth it out a little bit. Yeah, stones are always pretty smooth by the ocean. And that doesn't look too bad. If I hit X twice, I'll get back to Sculpt Draw. If I hit S, I'll go to my Smooth tool. So I'm going to go to Sculpt Draw and just kind of keep deforming this rock a little bit, and that's good. Good and good. So I'm going to go Object Mode. I'm going to go Shift D and just pull this one away from it, and then deform this one a little bit so we get a little variation going on. So Sculpt Draw, I'm just going to kind of pull that out, smooth it. Ooh, let's pull it down a little bit. Pull it down here. Yeah. Let's make this one really flat, like a good skipping rock or something like that. Kind of smooth it out. Ooh, that's a small rock. Make it a little bigger than that. And it kind of looks like a bean. Just pull it out a little bit. Get in there, get a little more detail maybe. Pull this one down a little bit. Smooth it out. Oh, that's smooth. It's too much strength on the smoothing. That's what I think. And yeah. Pull this out a little bit. Pull this out a little bit. Pull this down a little bit. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Smooth that out. Yeah. Basically, you can spend a lot of time playing around with this. I wanted to scale this now a little bit out flatter, so I'm just going to scale it along the Shift Z, so it will not scale on the Z, but it will scale on the X and Y, and then kind of scale it out a little bit like that. So it's kind of a more flat rock, and that's nice and good for that. And maybe just one more variation here real quick. We'll switch to Sculpt Mode, go to Sculpt Draw with hitting X twice, and do a little bit of deforming on this. Maybe turn the strength up a little bit here. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Pull this up a little bit. Yeah. That's good. Oh, let's make this one a little bit more elongated. I could say elongated. And alright. That's not too bad. We can also just go to Object Mode now and scale it along the Y-axis or X-axis if we wanted to make it a little bit longer. But that's pretty good. Maybe smooth it out a little bit. Alright. That should work well. So, switching back to layer 1, I'm going to start adding materials. So I can go ahead and put these stones down now. I need to go back to layer 2 and make these a group. So by B, box select all 3 of them, go Control G, make a group, and let's just name these stones. Perfect. And then we can go to our floor mesh, ground mesh, whatever you want to call it, and add a new particle system. Now, I basically want these stones to just be focused around the camera here and not across the whole mesh. So I'm going to create what you call a vertex group. And that is under your tab here, Object Data tab I believe it is, and make a new vertex group. Switch to Weight Paint, Switch to draw. It's already at draw. That's good. And now I'm just going to draw in some painting basically, and the red areas will be where the stones will be placed, and the blue will be where they are not placed. So that is good, and we can name this vertex group by just double clicking, and that's stones as well. So now on our particle tab, I'm going to change the type to be hair and make it advanced, and let's scroll down, choose render. Under render we're going to choose group. I'm going to choose our stones. There you go. They're going all across the mesh though, so we need to set our vertex group right here, and the density we want to be our stones. So now you can see they're only placed around here. Now they're kind of being placed funky, so let's change some of these settings up a little bit. First of all, I want to set it to use rotation under the render, and you can see they're all kind of rotated upwards right now. I'm going to choose rotation as well along the normal, but they're all kind of rotated upwards right now and not like sitting flat. So to fix this, I'm just going to go to my stone tab and in front view hit rotate and 90 degrees. Now you can see they're all sitting nice and flat like they should be. So that's good, and you might want to uncheck even distribution and maybe choose random just to get a little more random looking group up here. And let's check the size down a bit. So make them a bit smaller, and I also think we have too many, so I'm just going to go 500. Now going to camera view, if you hide your mesh you can see they're still too big, I think. Still too big. So make them a little smaller and add some random size. So I'm going to go like 0.8 in the random size and make the size 0.04. Alright, that's not bad. Let's move my camera up a little bit along the Z axis. There we go. And pull it back a little bit more. Alright, we can unhide our lake mesh, and that should be good. So I'm going to quick place a sun lamp so it will make it easier for us adding materials. So Shift A, add lamp, sun, right here. Rotate it this way. So I'm just going to have it kind of coming in at the camera like so. Maybe a little bit of an angle on top there. Switching to top view. And yeah, that should work well. Let's give that strength of about 7. And a little yellowish tint is always good. Alright, so let's start adding in our materials. So let's do the water first because that's what we're most excited about. So I'm going to put the repeats back on. Maybe not the Y right now, but just the X so it fills up our scene nicely. I'm going to split my window. I'm going to hit T to close off these toolbars and go to our node editor. Alright, so we can click new material now. Boom. A new, I'm going to hit N to close this off. A new brand spanking material. Now we're not going to be using the diffuse shader at all. In fact, the water shader is going to be pretty simple, just 2 different shaders combined. The first one will be a glass shader, and we can plug that into the surface right there. And the second is going to be a transparent shader. Now the transparent shader is going to make it so we can see through the water and see the stones and sand underneath it. So I'm just going to add in a shader, mix shader, place it between them, put the transparent one on bottom and the glass one on top. I just flip these around to make it less confusing. Alright, sorry about that rooster crowing out the window right now. And I'm going to make the IOR value of the glass 1.333, which is the IOR value of water. So that's why I'm doing that. And then I'm just going to make the transparent shader be about a 0.1 mix in with my glass. So make that 0.1. And let me also now add in our sky. So I'm going to be using an HDR to light our scene here. And I think it would be easiest to jump to my bottom layer to add this in. So go to your world settings, click use nodes, and click environment texture. Now the texture I'm going to be using is like a HDR like I said, and there'll be a link to the website where you can download it in the description. But I'm just going to open it up right now, and let me see where I have it here. Oh, not there, right here. and it's Grand Canyon, if you guys are wondering what it's called. I'm just going to open up my JPEG version of it. So I guess, yeah, it's an HDR, but I'm opening the JPEG version of it. So I'm going to go rendered, and you'll see, boom, the Grand Canyon image is placed in the background. Now I need to reposition this for my scene. So if you didn't see what I just did there, I'm going to switch to my world settings under my nodes. So clicking that little world will switch to your world settings. And I'm going to add two nodes here. First one being texture coordinate, and the second one being a mapping node under vector mapping. And I'm going to use generated in the vector and then connect the vector to the image. Now I can use this node to rotate around our HDR image. So I'm going to rotate along the Z until we find what would be a good background. And ooh, here we go. This is what I want. That's good. This will be what I'm just wanting the top part here for the background in my scene. And let me rotate along the, which one will it be, Y-axis a little bit, and X, just to kind of straighten it out. But something like that, getting a nice horizon line there is what I'm looking for. And rotate along the Z a little bit more, just to find the cloud setup you're looking for. But I guess I'm pretty happy with that. So we'll leave it at that. Let me just kind of pull that back. Oh, too much. There we go. And now, if I switch to my top layer, we'll see what our water's looking like. So here we go. And there you go. So, hold up. Water's coming in here, and you don't see a whole lot of deformation right now. It's because the quality is turned down on it. But it is rendering like it should be. And it is looking pretty good. Although it's looking a little weird with this bottom mesh not being, what do you say, rendered, because it's all plain materials, nothing applied to them yet. And I also think I can turn the scale of my waves up a little bit more. Alright, there we go, 0.8. Maybe it was a little bit of a windy day. So I'm just going to quick save my file at this point. It's always good to save. And let's add more materials in. So I'm going to be doing the ocean floor now, basically the beach. So hide that, and let's add a new material for this. So switch back to our object materials and click new. There we go. Scroll out, find that one there. So this is going to be a diffuse, but also I'm going to be doing some cool things to add some of those reflections that you see on the ocean floor. When you're standing, you know, in the water and you look down at the sand, you can see those textured like reflections that the waves cast on the ground, and we'll also be doing that because that's cool and adds a lot of realism to our scene. So I'm going to start though with adding the sand texture for the ground, and this is just going to be a image texture I got off CG Textures. There'll be a link in this description for it, but this one's just called, where is it? Same place as the other one, Soil Beach 87. There'll be a link for it in the description. So pop that in there, and let me just go up to top view, hit tab, select all, and UV unwrap this mesh. Alright, and then we can just add in a texture coordinate and a mapping node, just like we did before for the HDR. There we go. And we can tile it now with this across our mesh. This time I'm going to choose UV out of the texture coordinate and then connect the vectors. So if we go rendered, you should see the sand is placed there, but it's too large. And I want it to be tiled maybe 3 or 4 times. So I'm going to go under scale here. If you just type in 3, 3, 3, you'll see, oh, 3. You'll see we get it tiled 3 times across. So that's cool, and I think that looks pretty good for an ocean floor. Maybe 4, like I said. But 4 would be good. Very good. I like that. Now it's a little bit bright because the ocean floor is a little bit wet normally, and the sand isn't quite so bright. So, well, you know what? Why don't we just hold off on darkening it right now, because putting the water on top of it may darken it enough. So we'll just leave it like that for now. And let's texture our rocks. So I'm just going to scroll in to get a good view of these rocks. rotating around, moving my mouse around with shift and middle mouse button. So let's texture one of these. So I first have to unwrap the 3 of these, and I'm just going to tab. Let me switch to solid view so you can see what I'm doing. Tab this, select it all with A, hit U, and Smart UV Project. Good. Just hit OK. You don't have to change any of these settings. Just Smart UV Project, OK, and Smart UV Project, OK. This will be good enough for these, and should look good. So now I'll add in my first material for the rocks. The rocks are pretty simple materials, pretty basic. Just an image texture from CG Textures again, and this one will be our red looking rock. Put that in the diffuse, and if we go rendered now, you see our red rock right there, and it already looks great. But I'm going to add a few more things to it. So I'm going to put a mix shader in here, and Shift A add in a glossy shader to make it look wet. I'm going to connect the glossy to the bottom of the mix, and you can see that's way too much glossy. But I'm going to take it down to about a 0.1, and then I'm going to take the roughness down to like a 0.05 to give it more of a sharp glossy, which makes it look a lot more wet and realistic. So that's looking good. Let me turn my sun lamp here on to layer 2. If you hit M and hold shift, you can link it so it's showing up on more than one layer. So we got it on layer 1 here, and now we also have it on layer 2 here. So that's cool. So just zoom in on these, and now if I go rendered, you can see I'm getting that sharp, wet looking glossiness that I'm looking for. So that's good, and that might be all I need to do for that. You could also add maybe just a little bit of bump if you wanted. So to do that, you just go Shift A, Vector, Bump, take the color into the height, and then connect the normal to both of these, and you get that looking bump map look coming in. It's a little strong right now. Just take the bump mapping down to like a 0.2 to get a better look, and yeah, that's all we gotta do for that. So I'm basically going to be using the same shader on all 3 of these with just different textures. So what I'm going to do for that is select this one, select this one, select this one, and then make sure you select this one last again. Go Control J, or nope, sorry, Command Z. Control L, and we make links, materials. Now if I go rendered, you can see they're all red rocks. So that's good. I'm just going to be changing them now, and to change them you need to first make them their own material. So I'm going to switch to my material tab here, hit that 3 button, and now this material will be its own material, and I can open up one of the other rock textures I have here. Again, they will all be in the description. So make that one gray, select that one, hit the 2 button there, and make this one my whiter looking rock. And there we go. We got 3 different looking rocks. Not bad. This one looks a little bit sad, but it's okay. And that's all you gotta do. So now if we switch over to this tab and go 0, you can see our rocks are all nicely textured and placed under the sand. Very good. Now let's do some more work on the sand material. I'm not done with that yet. So switch back to my sand texture, and let's start off by giving this a bump map. So Shift A, bump, take the color into the height, and plug the normal into the normal. There we go. And that gives us some more better looking realism. Turn the distance up a little bit maybe, and turn the strength down again, like we did before. And yeah, that's not too bad. Maybe go a little lower with the distance. Okay. Now it's time to add those reflections that I was talking about. So to do that, we're going to be using a texture. Now I'm not sure which texture I used. Let me, I forget which texture I used. Let me quick check which one I used, because this is important. Alright, so I used a Veroni texture. So I'm going to add that in right now. Texture, Veroni texture. There we go. And I'm going to make the scale quite large, like a 60 or something. And I want to use the same vector here as I did for the image texture. So pop that in there. Now I'm going to add in a invert node because I want this texture inverted. So pop that in there. And, well, actually I'm not sure if I need it inverted, but now I have the option. I can turn that on and off if I want. And now I'm going to also add in a converter color ramp. And this will be just to tighten up the texture. So I'm going to pull in my black and pull in my white. Whoop, grab you, pull it in. There we go. Now this color ramp right here is going to be our factor for a mix shader. So we're going to add in a mix shader, pop it in here, and add in a glossy shader, and pop it in here. Now this glossy shader I want to be pretty yellow, so make it nice and yellowish looking. Brighten it up a little bit. Now take the color of this color ramp and make it the factor. And you see we get this, which is not terrible looking, but not great looking yet either. I think the scale of my Verani texture is too high, so I'm going to take it down to like a 30. Ooh, that's much better. And you may also want to play around with your color ramp here, making more or less of this texture. Like so. And then if you invert it, no, you don't want to invert it. Okay, forget the inverting part. You don't have to do that. So yeah, just kind of play with these a little bit till you get something like that. And that's good, but it's still too much. And I also want to put the bump map node here into my glossy shader. That just helps add some realism. But this is good, but it's too much. So I'm going to basically duplicate my mix shader here and mix it with my original shader here without the glossy in the bottom to be about a 0.5 or maybe even more. So if I go 100%, I have none of that glossy, and I can kind of tone the amount I want. So that's cool. And I'll just go something like, something like that for now. Isn't too bad. Maybe, no, that's good. No, switch this around. Yeah, there we go. And we can now tone it down by going more or less. So that's good. You may also want to change the roughness of your glossy. This will basically determine how much you see across your whole thing, if that made sense. Basically determine how wide the glossy will spread. Alright, and that's pretty good. So let's see what it looks like with our ocean on it now. I'm going to Option H, unhide my ocean. Okay, here we go. So you can see that that Verani texture shows up a little bit less once you have this ocean up. I should say up. And so you can almost turn that up a little bit, but the it's not looking too bad. Not looking too bad at all. I think I might want to raise my camera up a little bit though. So I'm going to pull it up along the Z. And let me do this in solid view. Pull it up along the Z. Pull it back a little bit. Yeah, that's going to be better. And let's kind of see what this is looking like by, what did I have this set to? Oh, 7. Okay, maybe make this a little brighter. And let's kind of see what this is going to look like by turning our sand, or no, our water mesh to a higher quality. So I'm going to turn this up to like a 24. And so you can see you get much more detail in that, and it's looking good. I think I need to change the scale of my waves down a little bit more now, just because these are looking too big. Yeah, that's better looking. Save it. Always save. And I'm also going to enable my GPU to render. If you're running with a newer NVIDIA card, you can use CUDA and render with your graphics card. And it'll just go a little bit faster. If you don't have that, you're fine. Just render with CPU, and it should still work fine. But I'm going to use GPU just because it'll go a little bit faster for me. And switch to render. We'll see what this is looking like. Alright, it has its little bit of stuff to do. And there we go. That's not looking bad. It needs a little bit of work, but it's looking pretty good actually. Getting kind of some weird white stuff coming out back there. Not really sure what's causing that. But yeah, the water itself, what is that? Oh, it's just the bright sand and the shadow. Okay. You know what? Maybe we don't even need the shadow of the water. Let's try turning that off and see what we get. So if you switch to your object data here, you can go to ray visibility, ray visibility, and adjust some of the settings. I want to leave camera on, but with the water selected, what's going on? Okay, that's just a reflection, I guess. Whoa, what is going on with that? My sand looks like it's messed up. Oh no, that's just the water mesh. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, yeah, with our water mesh selected though, you can turn off shadow. Check that. Right there. I just turned it back on. Just be patient, it'll take a little bit of time. And you get your water shedding no shadow, which may or may not be a good thing. Not sure if I like that. If I turn the transparency off, ooh, that's kind of weird. You want shadow. Okay, you just want shadow. Turn that back on. And we'll see what we get. Okay. So that's all the way transparent. Yeah. So this is looking a little bit too see-through though. Oh, I still have shadow off. It's looking a little bit too see-through for my liking. Ooh. No, it's not. Okay, that was the problem. Leave shadow off, or on. And let's just turn the transparency down a little bit. 0.06. Yeah, that's looking better. Very good. And if we turn the length of our ocean up now, along the, let me turn the view down a little bit on that. On our ocean, if we turn the X up one more time, not the X. Here, let me do this in solid view. The Y up one more time. We get it extending out here further. There we go. And we can see what this is looking like. So I'm just going to hit F12. And you also might want to play around with the angle of your sun a little bit. You'll get a lot of different results by doing that. And just kind of rotating it around a little bit. Kind of experiment and find something you're happy with. I think I'm going to try that. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to render this out now at a larger quality. Then be back with you guys and see what it looks like. So I'm going to first change my sampling though up to be about 100 samples. Should be a good test. And I might get 1280 by 720. So an HD render but not full HD. 100%. Save my project and render it. We'll see what we're getting. Be right back. Alright, so there's our first render attempt, and it's not too bad, but there's a few things I want to fix before I go on to compositing. So one of them will be the size of these rocks a little too big, I think. So I'm going to make these smaller. Let's go to a 0.3. That's good. And the size of the ripples on this is too big too. Let me hide this water mesh so I get some faster movement here. Oh, and also maybe switch to weight paint. On here, yeah, switch weight paint and make these rocks go out a little bit further, and we can add in a few more rocks now that we spread them out further. That's good. Go solid view, and I think I also want to go for a little wider framed image. So right now I'm at a focal length of 35. If I select my camera and go more of like an 18mm, I get a wider angle view, and I think that looks a little better. I'll probably have to reposition my camera though, because if I option H, yeah, you can see I need to move my camera in now some more. So just grab and middle mouse button, pull her in to be right around there. Perfect. Now you can also see that I can kind of see the square boundaries of this water mesh, so you may need to tile it along the X one more time. So just hit tile on the X there, and then pull the whole mesh that ways. But as you can see, this mesh is getting a little bit laggy now that it's tiled this many times at this quality. So I'm going to turn the viewport of this down to be less until I'm ready to render. So something like that, and we'll get better frames. Alright, so do that. And another thing I wanted to do is change the positioning of my HDR. I have really cool HDR and I don't see any of it in the background, so I kind of want to change that. So I'm going to split my window, go into Node Editor, and select my world. Let's do some more rotating along the Z. Yeah, thinking if I get some of this background here, it'll look good. So let me just kind of pull this up like that, and then rotate it up a little bit like so. And whoops, rotate, yeah, something like that. Maybe even have some of these trees in the distant background. So the video you saw at the beginning had the ocean shoreline that I put in. I won't be doing that in this tutorial, but it's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to switch to my top tab, and ooh, you can see that shoreline there. It's a little too strong, I think. A little too much. Let me rotate that down a little bit. Down some more, and down some more. Yeah, we can't show those trees, otherwise it will look bad. But yeah, that looks better. Good. So I'm also getting a little bit of an issue now with my sand, being that it's the camera is seeing past it, so I need to scale this up a little bit bigger as well. I'm just gonna go on the, well, let me just go Z, pull it out here a little bit, and scale it up a little bit bigger. There we go. That should be good. Maybe add a few more stones onto it now. We'll go 1,000 again, and should be good. Yeah. I could make the render deform on this mesh, render it at a little higher quality, but it's not really necessary. And hit Z to get out of that. And I think we're ready to render again, and then we'll do some compositing and finish it up. So with my ocean mesh selected, I'm going to turn the quality back up. I'm going to go all the way to a 28 right now, so that's going to be pretty high quality. It might take a little bit longer to render, and you'll definitely have a little bit laggier viewport, but it'll look pretty good. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to save my file. You can see things are lagging up a little bit now. And I'm going to render. So hit F12, and I'll be right back. Alright, so there we go. I had forgotten one thing though. I wanted to change the size of the reflections on my floor here to be a little bit bigger. So do that. Go to my object data. Let me quick hide this mesh again so I'm not laggy. Hide you. Very good. So select this and right down here. Make this more of a 25. And let's just kind of pull this out a little bit more like so. Good. And one other thing that I think might make it look a little better is if I turn the strength of my HDR down just a little bit. That should help some things out a little bit. And also I want to reposition my camera a tad. If you go to your camera settings and choose composition guides thirds, you can see that I'm not really lined up on my thirds here like I want it to be. So I'm going to go Option H. Let me quick turn the quality down on this water mesh so I can operate. So go to my modifiers. We'll drop that down to 12. Very good. Now I can rotate my camera along the x-axis to line up about so. That's what I want. That's good. You just get that third line going along there, and you'll be happy. Rotate along the x just right. There we go. Move my camera in a little bit as well. Alright, so crank the quality back up on my mesh, and I think I'm ready to render again. This should be the final time, and then we'll do some compositing tips and tricks, and then we'll be ready to go. So, save and render. Alright, so this is rendering out, but there's still a few things that make me unhappy. I think my water is a little bit too transparent still, so I'm going to go down to like a 0.5, and I forgot to set up mist, so I'm just going to stop this render. It's looking pretty good besides that though. So yeah, I'm going to make it a little bit less transparent, maybe a 0.45, and I need to set up my mist. So let me quick hide that water mesh. On my camera settings, I'm going to enable mist in the display so I can see where it's going to be coming out. And then in my render layer settings, I'm going to add a mist pass. And then in the world settings, I can adjust these settings by changing the start and end. So I'm going to make it start at about 15 and then end with the depth at about 75. Looks good. Alright, that should do it. That should do it. Maybe we can go 85, just a little bit further. And I think that's it. One other thing is I was going to make my roughness a little bit wider by going like a 0.4, and then maybe change the amount up a little bit more on this by going like a 0.4. Alright, good. Rendering for the final time now. And there we go. We're ready to bring it into the compositor, I believe. So we're going to switch up here to compositing, choose use nodes and backdrop, and then I'm just going to go Control Shift, click on my render layer to bring that into a viewer node. Very good. Option V to make that a little bigger and V to make it a little bit smaller. Very good. Now this is a little bit bland in the color situation, so I'm going to be doing some color correcting, adding the mist in, and then we could also do a vignette or something if we wanted to. We might not have to. But I'm going to first add the mist. So Shift Add, Color Mix, mix the image in with a light blue color at a factor of the mist. And Control Shift to change that, and you can see mist galore, a ton of mist, too much mist. But mist is what we want. So I'm going to add this in again and bring this into the bottom. So I can now adjust the amount of mist by changing this. You can see. Very good. This kind of just blends the ocean in with the horizon nicely and does some good things. Maybe I'd want the mist to start a little bit sooner than I had it. So I could go 75 here and 5 here, but that's fine for now. And we got some mist, so that's good. So let's now add in, I'm going to go like a 0.8, some color correcting. So I'm going to go color balance to start. And I want to bring in a little bit more of that deep blue color in the sky. So let's change our, let's start with our lift and take that down to the blue. Ooh, too much, too much. Just a tad of blue here. Very good. And maybe our lights give it some blue too, and then maybe some yellow in our gain. Ooh, that doesn't look so great. Let's go blue here and then yellow in here. Ooh, yeah. That's not looking too bad. Bring up our highlights a little bit, darken our lows a little bit. Never hurt nothing. Just a little bit. And maybe take this down just a tad. Okay, that's not too bad. It's still a little bit. Just lacks a little bit of brightness. So I might also add in a color correction and add a little bit of saturation to this scene by changing the master saturation up a little bit, and that helps a little bit as well. And yeah, so let's not go too blue with this because that looks a little bit too blue. Too blue to be true. Yep. And take that down a little bit. And yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah. There's our ocean, guys. If I shift space, I can make this look bigger. And there you go. You can see we have our ocean, our rocks, our sky. And if you wanted to do what I did in my video, where I put a shoreline in, that's very simple to do. If you follow my, I have tutorials on how to cover doing the realistic rocks. I show the complete process of making rocks. I show the complete process of making realistic trees in this tutorial here. And I also show the process of adding in trees as assets and such in this tutorial here. So a little bit of a project if you guys want to do more and add in a horizon, and then you get those really cool looking reflections of your trees in the water and such, which look really good. But that's going to do it for this tutorial, guys. We created a realistic ocean shore. Hope you guys might have learned something, had some fun, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. So, bye-bye.